Happy Monday, everyone. We are back. How's it going? We are here to review the July 21st, 2025 edition of Monday Night Raw that just ended a few minutes ago. This one ran a little bit past the 2.5-hour mark that we're used to from the Netflix era of Raws. This one ran about, 2:45, something like that, closing with the big segment that I thought, anyway, was going to reveal what Roman Reigns is going to be doing at SummerSlam, or I should say, officially revealing it, because it was made pretty clear at the closing of tonight's Raw, it's probably going to be a tag. It's going to be Roman and Jey Uso versus Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. I figured it would either be that or a one-on-one match between Roman Reigns and Braun Breaker. And I'm a little bit disappointed that we're probably not getting that. And based on how the show ended, I'm really surprised that, or I would be surprised if WWE actually makes us wait until next Monday's Raw to get the official announcement for the tag. If any of you want to keep an eye on social media, as we go through the podcast here, something tells me this is the type of match WWE is just going to let us know about within the next few hours or maybe even tomorrow, via social media, via a message from Scrap Daddy or whoever. I just feel, or it might just be a match graphic. But I don't think we need to go through the trouble of another promo and then a challenge, laid down for a tag. The way they kind of teased it in that promo tonight, with Roman reminding Braun Breaker several times to stay back, young feller. I kind of thought they were eventually this thing was going to break down into a brawl between them. But, Jey Uso is still left, without a match at SummerSlam, so it would probably make the most sense at this point just to do a tag. That way you don't have to worry about beating Braun Breaker or having Braun Breaker beat Roman Reigns, neither of which I think WWE would want to do. I think they might want to save Breaker and Roman for a match when Breaker can win. You understand? You know what I mean? I think, right now, Roman is probably going to get a victory at SummerSlam. I'd be surprised if he lost. So whenever you want to do Roman versus Breaker, I think that's a match that WWE would want Breaker to win. But it's also a match that they don't want to beat Roman in right now. So maybe they're saving that one. Maybe they're saving that one for Mania. Yeah, I feel like Rhea Ripley and Stephanie Vaquer and Roman Reigns and Braun Breaker could make some pretty interesting WrestleMania matches. Especially if you do some sort of a crazy finish at SummerSlam where maybe Breaker pins Roman. Or maybe Roman pins Breaker, and then at WrestleMania, Breaker beats him. Something like that. But based on how the closing segment went tonight with Paul Heyman, Reed, Breaker, and Roman, and of course Jey Uso coming out to make the save, looks like that's going to be our match for SummerSlam, a big tag. And we also had an Intercontinental Championship match finally added to the SummerSlam card. It will be AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio. That was also announced tonight, so we figured we would at least get that. And overall, give me your thoughts on tonight's Raw. I didn't think it was a bad show, but I didn't think it really set the world on fire either. We got a really good one-on-one match between Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky. Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross battled again. Bayley and Lyra challenged for the tag team championships tonight, which was a weird booking decision. And we did get a stipulation added in the Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria Intercontinental Championship match at SummerSlam, and it's not the type of match I was hoping, but there is still hope that we can still get this specific type of match that I've been harping about for the past few days at SummerSlam with the men. So we will have to see, but we will run through the show for the most part here. I thought it was pretty decent. Sheamus and Rusev had a banger, and it was fun to see Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer mix it up as well. So let me know your thoughts in the chat here as we go through, and we will basically just kind of review tonight's Raw and then probably get out of here. But I do have a couple of news tidbits I want to get into as well. And thank you to everyone who joined us last night for our TNA Slamversary watch-along. It's the first time I've ever purchased a TNA pay-per-view before. It took me until 2025 to do that, and we watched it here on the channel last night. And I did enjoy a lot of what I saw, but I think everybody kind of came away from that main event feeling a little bit let down, and it does seem to be a little bit of a weird booking decision given the fact that you had that many fans, your top attendance ever, 7,600 fans right there in New York, ready to crown Santana and give him his moment, and you're going to bypass that in order to give it to him in fucking Lowell, Massachusetts, in front of a whole bunch of honkies, at Bound for Glory. It's just a weird decision, if they're going to hold off Santana until then. I'm like, oh, man, right there, yeah, the perfect opportunity right there. But overall, I was still happy to see TNA draw a crowd like that. And it's a reminder of how healthy, pro wrestling is right now with, multiple promotions, being able to draw pretty respectable houses, and TNA setting some records last night. Overall, though, I was reminded why I don't really watch TNA. Like I said, I was entertained by a lot of the show, and they do a lot of things well. But there's a couple things where I was just like, see, this is why I don't watch them. This is why I just don't have time in my life for them. Nor do I have much time for NXT in my life either. So it was nice to get a glimpse of that world, but it was also a reminder of why I don't give them my attention. You know what I mean? So overall, it was a fun experience. We'll see. We'll see how the card shapes up for Bound for Glory. Maybe we'll do another one. Maybe we'll do another TNA watch along, because apparently it's going to be Team 3D versus the Hardy Boys over 25 years after their SummerSlam match that I was in attendance for. I had great seats. I was so close to the ring. I was feeling the ground shake as they were taking those bumps on the outside of the ring. 25 years later, quarter of a century later, these two teams think they're going to do it again in a TNA ring at Bound for Glory. Okay. I hope nobody dies. But overall, fun last night, and thank you to everyone who joined us and hung around. This coming Sunday, however, we're back to the classics. We're going to be watching SummerSlam 1995. Before we jump into Monday Night Raw, let me do some shout-outs real quick here in the chat. Just say hello to everyone, and then we got a couple of pieces of news to get into, and then we will get on with the Monday Night Raw results. Again, I want to thank you for being here tonight. Thanks to everyone. Please do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button. Please subscribe if you are not yet a subscriber. Any super chats that come through tonight will be answered, and of course, memberships are open as well. And not a ton of people in here yet, but good to see Melissa and Gilbert and Rodrigo and Ajax Johnson, Nick Musser, Michael Johan, David Brown, Ricky Zalvadar, my boy Barry, MK. They really turned Lyra into a crazy woman, getting mad over nothing. How dare Bayley not call her and give her a tag title match? I know, right? Like, Lyra I'm sure it's happened before, but I did get a chuckle out of Lyra legitimately being pissed off that she has a championship match. It's weird. Like, why would you be so mad about that? Let me straighten out my camera there. There we go. We're looking good, right? Okay. But yeah, Barry, we're going to be talking about that. Zach Powgett, good to see you as well. Jay Lambo is here. Denny Downbad, Andy Linnell, Brian Nino, good to see you. Also, the Trek reviewer and anybody else chiming in on this Monday evening. I know Mondays are rough because you have 40,000 fucking YouTubers all up doing a Raw review right now. So if you are with us, thank you for being with us. I appreciate it very much. Let's talk about some news first before we jump into Monday Night Raw, though, because there's just some interesting things floating around today that I wanted to touch on. And one of them is not wrestling related. It's a very sad death, but one that I feel like has a slight connection to pro wrestling, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But one that just hurt my heart today to read that. But let's talk about something else first. Let's talk about Brock Lesnar. So Brock Lesnar is kind of back in the news again because apparently Daniel Cormier was on the Mighty Cast podcast, and somebody brought up Brock Lesnar. Like, do you think you and Brock could ever mix it up in a WWE ring? And Daniel was basically like, he's banned from TKO. He's on the banned list. And we've been talking about Brock a lot. WWE was wishing him happy birthday last week. You got SummerSlam coming up. Seth Rollins is out. There's been some chatter. Could we see him again? And given the fact that they parade Hulk Hogan out there and even partner up with this shitty pisswater beer, if they're going to bring a racist, an admitted racist douche like Hogan and parade him out on TV and make him a WrestleMania guest host and all that stuff, what's going to stop them from bringing back Brock? Especially when they already have McMahon's. They got Stephanie and Triple H there with, that knew about all this. And I just didn't know where you draw the line, even though I don't personally, as a wrestling fan, need to see Brock Lesnar anymore, because of everything that's going on with the Janelle Grant lawsuit. I couldn't be entertained by him, if I were to see him. So personally, I don't need him. But that doesn't mean that WWE couldn't bring him back. And I thought that there were some hints that he might be coming back. And maybe he still is. But according to Daniel Cormier, he has heard that TKO does not want him under their umbrella, and I can understand that. Totally, especially since everything is still ongoing with the Vince McMahon and Janelle Grant lawsuit. And if, when they move into Discovery and some real torrid details come out, none of this shit might not be over, or a lot of this stuff isn't going to be over yet. And it's going to be a long while, I think, before any of that does blow over. So TKO not wanting to touch Brock, I don't blame them. But this is just according to Daniel. So we'll see if that's true. But according to Daniel Cormier, Brock Lesnar is on the TKO ban list and do not expect to see him back in WWE. So I'm kind of cool. That gives us a little bit of closure if that's true. Now, if Brock shows up at SummerSlam, I'd like to know who Daniel's sources are. But, he claims to be in the know here, and he probably would be. So we'll see. But it sounds like Brock will not be appearing back in WWE most likely ever. So, yeah, news on Brock. Also, Eric Bischoff. He was a guest on the Ariel Helwani show today, and he said a lot of things that Bischoff usually says. He was there to promote his Real American Shitty Wrestling, of course, and then he had some comments about TNA's Slamversary last night. And he was very complimentary to TNA drawing their house, and admittedly, he was very complimentary to AEW drawing the 27,000 or whatever it was for All In. But then, the fragile male, you can't stop it from bubbling up in these guys. And Bischoff is one of the biggest ones because once Tony Khan did some sort of an interview a couple years ago, said something about WCW or Turner or something like that, and Eric Bischoff took it so fucking personally, and he's been a little butthurt bitch about AEW ever since. It's so obvious why. He's just a fragile man. You would think he was denied access to a fucking after party or something. Just completely turned on him literally overnight. And he's just been so obnoxious ever since. And he's been so transparent. You can see right through his pettiness, and the things he says and how obsessed he seems to be with disliking that company, how obsessed he seems to be with touting his numbers that he feels are bad. They've been dropping all these numbers. They're only pulling in 500,000 something. Even when they pull in 600,000 for Dynamite, they are still number one on cable. It is a different game today. Nobody is ever going to be pulling 1997 or 1998 WCW or WWE numbers. Those days are over. There's streaming, there's YouTube, there's your phone, there's podcasts. There's 1 million different types of ways for you to consume the content now, where back in the day you had one way and one way only. Watch it on that night or stick a tape in your VCR. Nothing else. So it's very, very different now, and Bischoff has just kind of been a little bit silly about the whole thing. He doesn't even believe these things he's saying. He just says them. Well, of course, there is a small camp, and you look online, it's the fragile men. It's the fragile male syndrome coming out, and they're all saying the same thing. Boy, I think that, if they get a TV deal, TNA could, in real quick time, overtake AEW as the number 2 promotion. Okay, now I'm not going to say nothing. That's not possible. Anything is possible. I was happy to see TNA, not only hang around all these years, but to pull out the house that they pulled last night. That's great. But you're talking about a 23-year-old company who set an attendance record last night of 7,600 fans. There was 10,000 people in attendance for the pilot episode of AEW, the show that made them create AEW, the first ever All In. What they pull? 10K for that. And that was kind of the beginning. So like on day one, they were pulling more than this 23-year-old company has on its best day. So I want TNA to continue its success. But right now, in terms of their success, they cannot compete with AEW, at least certainly not financially. And I think AEW could outbid and outproduce anything that TNA does in its current form. But that does not mean that TNA can't build momentum and build off of what they have. That's great. That's what I'm rooting for. I want to see continued success in AEW. But it's how, I think it's how the Bischoffs of the world will turn that into something about AEW. Last night had nothing to do with AEW. Last night was about TNA. Holy shit, they drew a big house. Now, granted, the WWE partnership is helping with that. So if they are able to, let's say, get a TV deal, and then WWE floods the TNA product with a bunch of their wrestlers, and they draw a good number that rivals or beats AEW, can you really say TNA beat them? What did it take? It took WWE's crew to do it. So the TNA that we know right now, I feel like I feel like there's a bigger gap between AEW and TNA than there is AEW and WWE. That's how far behind I believe TNA is of AEW. I watched it last night. I was cracking up looking at the kickoff show, the pre-show panel. Just 4 people, 2 of which I didn't even know. Some dude with long hair, fucking Tommy Dreamer. The lowest possible energy you could ever have. It was a tableclothed, regular old wooden underneath the ring table that 4 people shared, and they're passing the microphone around to one another. And I'm like, that's their kickoff show. It looked so low rent, low budget, low energy. You know, it just lacked all of that. So, you know, TNA gave us good matches last night. I enjoyed the pay-per-view. I think they shit the bed in the main event, but overall, I'm like, I don't feel like I threw $40 away. And that's all I ask for any wrestling promotion, you know, but I think you have, you know, the certain type of fans, the fragile males that have such a stick up their ass about AEW that they just say things that they want to be true and try to pretend like it's a valid opinion. I think they could be a strong number 2 in a year if they get a TV deal. No, they cannot. Not without WWE's help, they can't. You know, but I have no fear of that. But like, why did the conversations tread in that direction? You know, to me, that was like, we should have talked more about TNA, the crowd that they drew, the successes they had last night, you know, with, you know, the X Division match. I really like that. AJ Styles coming back. But you had some weird stuff. You know, you had the Hardy Boys winning the tag team titles in their 60s. You know, Jeff Hardy climbing up a rope ladder, which I actually did like. I don't know how WWE's never managed to do that spot before. You know, but the main event was kind of disappointing, especially with the entrance that Santana got, his family being there, the way the whole thing was set up. You know, plus an NXT guy is currently holding their championship, and the women's NXT champion took their championship earlier in the night. To me, all signs were pointing to Santana. So that was like a disappointing outcome. Hopefully does not bite them in the ass. This was kind of a gamble to go with the Cody at WrestleMania 39 match instead of the WrestleMania 41, and they better hope that the payoff when they do execute this, you know, is a good one and a successful one, and it doesn't make the fans say, damn, okay, that was nice, but you should have done it back there. You know, that's all I hope for TNA. So I think this chatter that they can one day be a number 2, they can be the number 2 in your heart, sure. Let them be there. They can be your second favorite promotion. I don't give a shit. But, you know, again, let's not start this. This whole YouTube channel was born this way by a bunch of fans saying, they're going to put WWE out of business. I'm like, okay, I'm happy that you are supporting your company and everything, but let's not be stupid. You know, but that's the way they were. So I think if, you know, anybody feels that TNA is going to overtake AEW as the number 2 promotion in the world, you can think that all you want, but it ain't happening, and you can bookmark it. So Bischoff and the rest of the fragile males like him continue to embarrass themselves. But anyway, Bischoff's a tool. Who fucking cares? Let's move on to a couple of sad deaths. Here's one. I didn't even know this guy's name. Apparently, this guy's name is Roddy Hogan. He is the Hulk Hogan lookalike that you would see in the crowd at a lot of WWE and WCW shows back in the early 90s. Most notably, King of the Ring in 1993. He's the dude in the front row there when the camera explodes in Hogan's face and Yokozuna beats him for the title. The look of disbelief on his face is crazy, you know, and he was at a lot of WCW shows as well when Hogan made the jump over there, and I think he was at a few other WWE shows as well. He wasn't the guy that played the huckster in the Billionaire Ted skits, but he did kind of look like him a little bit. That wasn't him, but he, I know he met Hulk Hogan a bunch of times. There's plenty of times, plenty of photos of the two of them, and I don't know anything about the guy other than seeing him in the crowd, you know, nearly 30 years ago, over 30 years ago now, back in the day. So rest in peace to Roddy Hogan. That can't be his real name. It reminds me back in the day, in the 90s, there was the Macho Warrior Rick Hogan. So maybe it's something like that, but apparently Roddy Hogan has passed away. I saw this news on Blue Meanie's Twitter. He was the one that I saw the news from, posted some photos, and talked about this gentleman being a pretty big deal up in the Detroit wrestling scene, which is wild, but pretty sad death there. Rest in peace to Roddy Hogan. Also, rest in peace to actor Malcolm Jamal Warner, who played Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show. Passed away due to a drowning in Costa Rica. And based on the limited information I read, the reason I wanted to bring this up is because it's kind of reminiscent of Shad Gaspard. Sounds like he was pulled away in a current or something and drowned. 54 years old. And I know the Cosby Show is canceled. I mean, I know Bill Cosby's a piece of fucking shit who should rot in hell. I understand that, but, it's like you grow up with a show. When I was a kid, I looked up to Theo. I thought he was cool. Like when I become a teenager, I'm going to be like Theo. I didn't succeed. I was not as cool as Theo, but I wanted to be, and plus, the TV shows of that era, one thing about the Cosby Show was a little bit too full housey for me. It just felt like, any trouble that the kids got into was minor shit. Theo never came home coked out off his ass or high on heroin or anything like that. Or, I think Vanessa came home wasted one time, but, Theo was never stumbling in the fucking house hammered, didn't knock a girl up or any normal problems that you would have, from teenagers or, maybe rebellious teenagers or teenagers who live in a family with money. There was aspects of the Cosby Show that I thought could have been more realistic for sure. But it's an institution, or at least it was until Bill did what he did. And I was always bummed out that we never saw more from any of the Cosby kids. When I was a kid, I kind of had a crush on Sandra. Of course, Lisa Bonet is smoking and I always liked Malcolm Jamal Warner. I just thought he was cool. And I don't understand why I never saw him in more movies and anything like that. So I don't know what he wound up doing with his life. I hope he had a good one, there. And, sounded like he was just on vacation with his family, and that happened. So just kind of immediately made me think of Shad Gaspard, and just sad. Just if you're at the beach in the summertime, just either know how to swim or know how to spot rip currents or whatever, because that just sucks. Just sucks. Rest in peace to an 80s icon, Malcolm Jamal Warner, Theo Huxtable. Really, really sad day. You know what? And rest in peace, Shad Gaspard. It's still heartbreaking after all these years. Anyway, that is kind of all I had for some of the news to get into. Just wanted to talk about the Brock Lesnar stuff. I felt like I needed to touch on what Bischoff was flapping his stupid trap about today on the Ariel Helwani show. I'm like, sometimes when I see these old men, I'm just like, do they really believe this? These fuckers on Fox News really believe the nonsense that comes out of their mouth. Like, they're just, Bischoff speaks as if he knows. He knows he's completely full of shit. He says it anyway, because he knows that, at least a certain percentage of the audience he's flapping his gums to is fucking stupid, and will gobble it up. But Jesus, I wouldn't be able to knowingly be that full of shit. I couldn't do it. I would feel so inauthentic doing that shit. But anyway, that is kind of it for the news. And now we can talk about the Raw, the Monday Night Raw. We opened up, of course, WWE Raw likes to do the big intros, everybody walking into the building. It's my favorite part of the show because these people all have to show up there 8 hours earlier, then sit through 2 hours of hair and makeup, get all dressed up, all nice and pretty with their sunglasses, repack their luggage, walk them back outside just to walk back into the building and act like they just got there. It was so stupid. So anyway, we're just seeing that every week is a little bit dumb. But as everyone is arriving in the backstage area, the Judgment Day rolls up in an SUV, and they all leave. Dominic offers to valet the car. I got this, guys. I'll valet the car. And who's going to approach him to take the keys? AJ Styles. AJ Styles is just a common man, working hard with his hands. That's all. He was working hard last night, too, at Slamversary. The dude is everywhere. So AJ picking up a little side hustle, that's good for him, because WWE wrestlers, they don't make that much money. So, if you can pick up a side job like valeting cars or being like a janitor or something, then I think you can probably make ends meet there and get your rent paid, and that is what AJ is doing. He's a hard worker. So he was there valeting cars. Dominic, of course, takes offense to this. I don't know why. AJ is just trying to make a living, and Dom is being an asshole about it. But Dom, we wouldn't be seeing the last of him before the night's over. In the arena, we open up with CM Punk. WWE did advertise or announce that CM Punk would be opening up the show earlier on in the day. This was a very simple yet effective promo between Punk and Gunther because these two guys have no history at all. They worked a live event when Punk first came back, and I think they've been in the ring once or twice. But in terms of like any sort of, personal history that dates back any sort of long period of time. None whatsoever. They're virtual strangers. And this is, more of a prize fight than it is some sort of an angle or a storyline or, the Punk's opponent wanting to expose him for the asshole that he is. This is just Gunther saying, I'm going to fucking kick your ass. But Punk is out first, and he promises to leave everything in the ring at SummerSlam, like always, and he does intend on winning the championship. And then out comes Gunther. Fans boo the shit out of him, but eventually they allow him to speak. And he says that he and Punk both have a lot in common. They're not here to make friends. They're here to make money and win championships. And he says he will destroy Punk. And in the end, Punk will walk out of SummerSlam as, without the championship. But at least he will still have the fans chanting his name. And then Gunther just leaves, and that is it. Kind of gets the last word. No brawl, no nothing. So we might get some physicality next week. Probably a contract signing is coming as well. I think we got 2 more Raws, right? Yeah. No, 1 more Raw. 1 more Raw. Fuck. Is next week the go home? It is. I think it is the go home. I think next week's a go home Raw. Well, fuck me. So they might have to do the contract signing or something else is going to happen between those 2 guys next week. But this was relatively simple, and it didn't really need to be complex because there's, like I said, there's not a ton of history here. And this match should be able to be sold to the audience just on 2 guys competing for a championship. And that's it. And we will see, if there's still something to Rollins and the briefcase. Of course, he wasn't on the show tonight. There was also a video of him on social media that Becky Lynch took of him walking down the street with his daughter on his crutches, which I really think is a shitty thing to do, to work your own kid. I'm kidding. I don't believe that the Rollins injury is a work. It's weird, and it's somewhat fishy. And if he does come out at SummerSlam healthy and cashes in the championship, that means a lot of people, including employees and wrestlers, got worked. There's no way they're all in on this. In order for something like that to work, you have to work your own employees or wrestlers. And you have to be willing to do that. And Rollins, he doesn't have to do it in person because he's at home, or resting up or whatever. But I feel like, even though the whole thing is very strange, Saturday night's main event was the big indicator. If this whole thing was a work, they would not have done the finish the way they did. The clunky finish that ended early with LA Knight clearly disappointed. They wouldn't sabotage their own product and make it look unpolished in front of a nationwide audience like that. Just not going to do that. It would have been done a different way. They want to run an injury angle, try to fool the fans. They wouldn't have done it in a way that fucked up their timing for the rest of the show and made them, accidentally sabotage poor Goldberg. That's my biggest indicator there. But the more and more you think about it, it's probably legit. But if he shows up at SummerSlam and cashes in anywhere, I kind of want him to cash in on Cena and Cody. I think that would just be more fun for him to cash in there. We will see. But good stuff from Punk and Gunther to open up the show. We go backstage, and Naomi's at it again. So Stephanie Vaquer is back there, and she's about to be interviewed by Byron Saxton. And then Naomi shows up, and you can hear her before she gets there. She goes, Stephanie Vaquer. And then she comes into screen, or comes into frame, and then she goes, oh, however you say it. It's a lot like what she said last week to Io Sky. I don't know what you just said. I don't know why. I know that there's a line you shouldn't cross. Maybe the Carlito, a lot of people are comparing that to the Carlito Chinese line. It's not the same thing. It's not. The Carlito one was worse. I don't think there's really that much of a double standard there. We can all choose what we find humorous and whatnot. And even the Carlito thing, I didn't find that offensive. It's not something that I would script for any of my wrestlers if I ran a wrestling company. But, I didn't spend 2 days all pissed off about it. I'm glad, let's maybe not do that again. They edited it out of YouTube and, we never heard the end of it. But, I think a lot of people are comparing those 2 situations to Carlito, and it's not really the same. I like Naomi. She's a heel, and she is an asshole, and that's perfectly fine. A lot of people made that argument with Carlito. He's a heel. Yeah, I get that, but it's just 2025. You shouldn't be saying that. And I don't really think that Naomi really crossed any lines with Io last week or this. Her character is to be an asshole. And she is one, and she plays a great one. So I didn't get upset about any of that. And they basically just talked about Stephanie's match or Stephanie's title shot she's getting, I should say, in Paris coming up at the end of August, and Naomi expects to be champion after SummerSlam. So a little tease there to Clash in Paris. And yes, I do believe that will be the match. I think Naomi will retain at SummerSlam in that triple threat. Then we had Sheamus and Rusev 2. Let me know what you guys thought of Sheamus and Rusev 2. I thought it was a banger. It always tends to be with Sheamus. I think Sheamus is one of the best wrestlers in the world, to be honest. And I think this was also the right outcome. I'm happy that Sheamus took this one because I wouldn't mind them going a few here. Like, I don't know what they're going to do with either one of these guys otherwise. You know, this is kind of a clean-ish win here because Rusev did go for the shillelagh, but got bro kicked, hard. Hard right in the face and went down for the win. But for the most part, it was a fight that Sheamus won. There was no interference. There's no bullshit. Not too many shenanigans. Just a fight that Sheamus won. So, you know, you could squash it here, but I feel like you need to do another one because Rusev won the first one, right? So you could book something for SummerSlam, maybe another well, you're already doing a street fight in the main event, some Bulgarian battle, or some Irish street fight. I don't know what the fuck they're going to do. They could do something at SummerSlam, or they could just continue the remainder of their issue here on television that maybe, you know, culminates at Clash in Paris or something like that. That could be good as well. But good outing here by both guys. Of course, they beat the absolute hell out of each other, and hopefully Rusev's jaw is all right from that bro kick. Well, I guess he caught it more in the ear, but man, his head's got to hurt, I would think. After that, we had a number one contenders match for the tag team championships. This was going to be New Day versus the LWO versus the Creeds. The LWO gets the win here. They get an assist from El Grande Americano, who came out and attacked Dragon Lee, who was out there backing up the LWO, and that allowed Joaquin Wilde to roll up Kofi Kingston for the 3 count and get the win. And they did reveal a little while later in the show in one of those, like commercial interviews, I think, when they interviewed the entire Judgment Day. I think that tag team title match is next week. So that wasn't a SummerSlam number one contenders match. They're doing it next week. And I believe they're doing one on SmackDown too, right? Because we had a number one contenders match, I think, on Friday. So I think next week for the go-home Raws and SmackDowns, respectively, we're going to get a tag title match on each show. I think. Because, yeah, aren't the Wyatt Six taking on whoever the fuck they're facing? Who won? Somebody won on Friday. I forgot. Belfast Brawl. There you go. Thanks, Zane. Oh, I didn't know that DJG. Malcolm Jamal Warner did have a podcast he was doing. That's probably pretty good. His character of Theo was just a real smart kid, you know, and he seemed like a smart actor too, you know. It's such a shame, man. Just too young, 54 years old. It's bullshit, man. All right, so then after the tag team triple threat, we go backstage where the Kabukis and Io Sky are hanging out. And Asuka says something about Io's match with Ripley and what's-her-tits at SummerSlam. And then Stephanie Vaquer shows up to talk to Io Sky and basically say, hey, if you win, you know, it's going to be me and you at Clash in Paris, but they're going to be having a one-on-one match tonight on Raw, and that was going to be awesome. Now, I knew during this segment that we would not get a finish between Stephanie and Io. They're not going to do that. Io's about to get a title shot here in a couple days or a couple weeks. And Stephanie Vaquer, of course, is on the rise. And I expect Stephanie Vaquer to win women's gold at WrestleMania. So both women are just too much upward momentum to take a loss to each other right now. So I kind of had a feeling that one would be a DQ, but I did not expect it to be as chaotic as it got later on. So stay tuned for that. We then go to another one of those Netflix commercial breaks. But those of us without the commercials got to see an interview by Tricky William. Tricky William is the interviewer, or the interviewee, and he's got the TNA's championship that he beat Mike Santana for. So Tricky William is up there, and apparently, I didn't even know about this, but apparently Tricky William has got some beef with the Undertaker of all people. So apparently Undertaker is going to be at NXT tomorrow, and Undertaker is going to be in the same ring with the TNA World Championship. That's crazy. That is crazy. Undertaker is going to share a ring with the TNA Championship. That's weird. So anyway, I don't know. This is LFG related, and I do not watch that show. I have no interest in it. I don't like any sort of show where you do something and then 5 jerk-offs judge you. Nope. Keep that shit away from me. So apparently this has something to do with that, and it's spilled over onto social media, and there's been some beef here. I hope Trick pistol whips him, to be honest. We'll see what happens on NXT. I won't be watching. I'll be at work, but I'll keep my eye on my trusty Apple device here and see if I can get some updates on Tricky William and Tricky Taker tomorrow night on NXT. Interesting stuff there. So we are backstage again with Dominic and Adam Pearce, and Pearce is growing increasingly impatient with Dominic, who is stalling like a motherfucker, does not want to go get this medical checkup done so the doctors can officially clear him. He's stalling, and Pearce says, that's it, we're doing it right now, you're going to meet me in medical, let's go. And Dom's like right now? He's like, yes, right now, let's do it. And as he walks away, AJ Styles is there, mopping the floor as a janitor. So this guy, who is already a full-time WWE wrestler, not only picks up one side job as a valet, picks up another as a janitor. Young people out there, you need to take note of AJ's work ethic and his drive, because this stuff is unmatched. You know, if you really want to be a success in this world, your career isn't enough. You need to be changing oil. You need to be greeting people at the door at Walmart. You need to be a janitor. You need to park some cars, because those extra jobs are really what's going to pull you together financially. And it's hard work. You know, you don't get much sleep. AJ Styles is probably, like, think about that. AJ Styles has got to park cars all night, then be a WWE wrestler, then clean the arena when it's done. When does he have time to sleep? Oh, by the way, he was also at TNA Slamversary last night. And this guy is near the end of his career, and he's going this hard. Young people, I'm telling you, these are the types of motivations you need to have. You can all take lessons from AJ Styles, who's just a common man, who's working hard with his hands. Y'all all need to do that. So anyway, after we see AJ diligently scrubbing the floors, we have the New Day, and they're talking about needing an extra advantage. And then they're joined by Grayson Waller. I'm assuming, I didn't see if there was a little countdown on the screen, so I don't know if this happened during the commercial or not. I don't think it did. And Grayson Waller basically offers his services to New Day to become like a third New Day member or something. I think he would look weird with a unicorn horn on his head. They don't seem to be too interested in that. But one thing that Waller said was that I didn't know Theory was injured, and now that like A-Town Down is dead officially, you mean to tell me after all of these months of teasing and build, they end the tag team in a backstage segment with one guy just saying it's over? No barbershop window, nothing like that you can give us? That's it? I thought Austin Theory was wrestling on Main Event the day or two ago. I saw some clips of that. I don't know about any injury that he had, unless it's kayfabe injury. I don't remember what that's about, but I did find it funny that Waller was like, A-Town Down is done. Something tells me they're not totally done. I feel like Theory will have to come back and attack him or whatever, but I thought he was back in the ring. I didn't even know he was fucking hurt. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with those guys. But anyway, New Day doesn't seem too interested in the services of Grayson Waller, and neither do I. Grayson Waller said, hey, Greg, can I be the second member of Good Mike Work? I'm like, get the fuck out of here, Grayson Waller, you dick. No, you can't. So New Day did the right thing there. And then it was time for a Becky Lynch promo. Now, WWE had advertised this over the weekend. Becky Lynch was going to have a SummerSlam proposal for Lyra Valkyria. We talked about this on Saturday, and I think it was when we were talking about it, I was out loud thinking about, okay, what kind of matches they're going to do. They've already have a street fight. They already have a cage match and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wait a minute. Intercontinental Championship, SummerSlam. McFly, hello, ladder match. Let's do a ladder match. How fun would that be? Ladder matches for Intercontinental Championships are fun in WWE. And this year is the 30th anniversary of the big one in 1995 between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. It's the 20th anniversary, even though it wasn't for the Intercontinental title, of the custody of Dominic in 2005. So you should do a ladder match on this show. And I think Becky and Lyra would have a great one. So I was convinced that whatever match proposal, this proposal is a match proposal, that it would result in a ladder match. And I was wrong. And I'm sad. So Becky comes out there and she first of all says that she shouldn't even be here on Monday Night Raw. She should be at the premiere of her new movie, Happy Gilmore 2. Becky Lynch and MJF are both in this thing. I wonder if did they meet on set or anything like that? I'm curious if they even cross paths or if they have scenes together. But MJF was there with Alicia. I saw pictures of them on the red carpet there, but Becky couldn't make the trip because she had to be at work to cut her promo. And she said they said something about her having the slickest win at Evolution. I feel like that was like a reference to something, it was very Trump-like, it was the slickest win at Evolution. And it's not just me saying that, it's other people saying that too. It's like, a lot of people say I'm the smartest person ever. A lot of people say that. Like that type of thing, like that type of energy. So just kind of eye rolling. And then Lyra Valkyria comes out. And now it's time for Becky to lay down whatever this proposal is going to be. And like I said, I was hoping it was going to be a ladder match. And Becky basically just says that if Lyra, it's one of those deals where if Lyra loses, she can't challenge for the IC title. Okay, it's got to be more than that, right? And Lyra's like, okay, I'll meet your terms, but you have to meet mine. No count out, no DQ, there must be a winner. And I guess that's the stipulation. Sounds to me like it is a street fight. No DQ. There's a million different names for no DQ, no count out matches. Falls Count Anywhere matches, triple threat matches, street fights, cage matches, any sort of stip. Those are the rules already. So no DQ and no count out could be a ladder match. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be one. And Becky says, fine, she'll do it, but she wants Lyra to shake her hand. And then when Lyra does, Becky goes for the manhandle or goes for an attack, and Lyra hits Becky with a manhandle, so she saw that coming a mile away. So no ladder match, unfortunately, at SummerSlam. Sounds like it's just going to be a no DQ, no countout match. Did they post any, I should look right now, did WWE post any match graphic and officially gives this match a name? I feel like I did see a graphic tonight when they were running through it all. But do we officially have a name for this match? I'm not seeing anything here at the moment. Yeah, I don't think I see it on social media. But anyway, I guess it's just going to be kind of like a no-holds-barred match or whatever the hell it's going to be. Or I quit match or whatever. But it's just going to be no rules, and they're just going to fight, and the winner is the winner. That's great, but I think a ladder match would have been really fun considering the women now have a chance to put, an Intercontinental Championship match on the map. They need one, and I think, those are two really excellent competitors for a ladder match. Those are two good picks. Lyra and Becky, I think, would have a fun one, a good one, and I was a little bummed that they weren't able to. And I was like, man, how is WWE, how is Triple H not remembering his two bros, Shawn and Razor, having that epic ladder match 30 years ago, 2 months after I graduated high school, back in 1995? How do they not remember what Eddie and Ray did back in 2005 with Dominic shaking the ladder and being a part of that match? Well, we might not have gotten it with the women, but we could still get it with AJ and Dom. I was hoping we would get that announcement later on. We didn't, but I think it's possible that maybe, I'm not giving up hope on this ladder match idea for SummerSlam, AJ and Dominic would be perfect as well. Because AJ Styles is, the modern day Shawn Michaels, of course, and Dominic has a connection to the ladder match as well. So it would kind of be like a tribute to both. It would be an Intercontinental Championship ladder match on the SummerSlam's 30th anniversary of the one in 95, and it would be a 20th anniversary tribute of the ladder match of which Dominic's custody was on the line in. And I think that would be great if they made Dom and AJ. Dom and AJ being in a ladder match actually would probably make more sense than the women doing it because of those connections. But based on what we would see later between those two guys, I'm worried that it ain't going to be a ladder match for the men either. So I think I should give up my dream because I've sent at least 9 tweets about it. I need to give it up. I might not get it. But I'm not giving up hope yet. We still have next week. We will see. Then here's the other interesting part of the show. So then right after that, it's time for a tag team title match. Earlier on in the day, mind you, this is 2 days after they've already announced this segment between Becky and Lyra. Now, all of a sudden, Adam Pearce posts a video today where he says the tag team championships are going to be on the line. Raquel and Roxanne are going to face Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Really? I mean, I guess it makes a little bit of sense if you're just passing out title shots. Pierce just gave one to Alexa and Charlotte, right, at SummerSlam. Just gave him the shot. Or was it Aldis? Was that the week Aldis was off? Anyway, whatever the fuck happened there. Charlotte and Alexa just got given one as well. So Pierce giving away a title shot is fine as well. But you already have Lyra booked in a segment tonight, and you're also giving away the finish of the match. I just don't see Bayley and Lyra winning the titles tonight. Lyra has an Intercontinental Championship match at SummerSlam already. Charlotte and Alexa already have a SummerSlam tag team title shot locked up too. So Lyra can't win the championship unless you book her for double duty at SummerSlam, and it doesn't feel like that would be something they would do. It would be random. Like, why are you booking her for, why are you doing that? She already got the fight of her life against Becky. She's going to face for the tag titles as well and possibly walk out of there with 2 championships again. Because didn't she already have 2 champions? I forgot. Don't listen to me. But that just felt like they were doing a match and advertising a match that you knew what the outcome was going to be when it happened. Bayley and Lyra aren't walking out with the tag team titles. That's stupid. So anyway, Lyra talks to Bayley about this backstage. So in storyline, it was Bayley who went to Adam Pearce and got the match without Lyra's consent. And Lyra was mad about this, which I did find funny that Lyra was, all bitching about it. I'm like, you're bitching about a championship match? I always thought like you win gold, you make more money, or it's beneficial, or most wrestlers want to be champions. It's what I've learned in my 40 years watching. That most wrestlers, they kind of want to win if at all possible. So Lyra having an issue with this was a little bit funny, but it didn't matter because I didn't expect them to win the championship anyway. So now it's time for the match. Bayley comes right out there after Lyra beats up Becky, and they go right into the tag match, Bayley and Lyra versus R&R, Roxanne and Raquel. Dominic, of course, is out there. And he jumps up on the apron to get involved like you knew he would. He gets then accidentally kicked in the face by Raquel, so he goes down. And then Lyra is going up to the top, and she's going to execute something probably to win the match. And that's when Becky resurfaces, shows back up, and throws or pulls Lyra off the apron onto the outside and then throws her into the steel steps. Back in the ring, we get a blind tag onto Raquel, who then hits her finisher on Bayley for the win. And Raquel and Roxanne retain the tag team championships. That's fine with me. The story here is still the relationship between Lyra and Bayley. They were working well a little bit together in the match. Bayley was like trying to go out of her way to be unselfish in the match. And it's making me wonder something. Somebody put it up on Twitter. I forgot who it was. I would have credited the tweet. I don't think it's him. Forgot who said it. But I saw like an idea of Bayley showing up at SummerSlam and helping Becky beat Lyra. And then Bayley and Becky doing like the Mega Powers handshake. And like they can, like Bayley and Becky, 2 of the original 4 horsewomen, right? They can form, like Bayley and Sasha kind of had this. But Bayley and Becky maybe forming like a Mega Powers. Like Bayley has always tributed Randy Savage in her moveset and her career, and if Bayley got to play the role of a Randy Savage in a female Mega Power team, of 2 stars. And then maybe, Bayley can go after a championship of her own, or maybe she can, maybe her and Becky can target the tags, and it's Bayley and Becky versus Alexa and Charlotte, or something like that for the titles. Or maybe Bayley wins the U.S. and now you got them together, but those championships are on different shows. But, some sort of an alliance like we had with like Rated RKO, or, where you just kind of put 2 big stars together for a little while. That's all. And doing that with Bayley and Becky might be fun, because I feel like Becky's got to find a way. Becky's going to have to retain over Lyra. That's what I feel like will happen there. So she'll, maybe need some help. And the fact that Bayley is such a big part of this storyline, and she's got a real sketchy relationship with Lyra, I feel like Bayley's part in this is to probably protect Lyra in the loss and help Becky win at SummerSlam. That's what I feel like is going to happen there. But so far, no ladder match. Very sad. After that, it was time for Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross again. Kross gets the Netflix commercial break entrance here. And not a great match. I really like what Kross has been doing lately, and I like the fact that he's been getting fan support, pretty much for the first time since he's been there, or at least really loud fan support, but you still have to be able to do it in the ring. This match wasn't bad, by any means, but, you do see sometimes you can see the limitations that Kross has. But I also feel like WWE on their end could be doing a little bit more for the guy as well. This was a match that I felt like he had to win because Sami already beat him, of course, in Saudi Arabia. He continued the attack on Sami. He wants him to say it, Sam Kinison style. And they booked another match here for Raw. So I'm like, you just got to have Kross cheat and win. And luckily, that's exactly what we saw. It took a lead pipe that was introduced in the match, a lead pipe that Kross used to bash Sami Zayn in the gut. But before he hit him with that, Sami hit Kross with a really, really ugly-looking exploder suplex into the corner. And he barely got any, air on him, and it was more of a roll, but it was really kind of a sick landing. And when Kross landed, even though he landed on the back of his head, he was holding his nose. And then after he hit Sami with the lead pipe and covered Sami, as he's pinning him, you see blood just dripping all over his leg. I'm like, where's the blood coming from? And it was coming from his nose. I think he got his nose jacked. He might have broke his nose in whatever happened there. I don't know if his knee came down or if Sami came down on his face or something, but as soon as he fell, you could see him kind of selling the nose, and blood was just pouring out of his nose. So hopefully Kross is okay there, and he did get the win with the assist from the lead pipe. He got originally introduced, and then the referee, or I think Sami tried to grab it, and then Scarlett distracted the ref, and oh yeah, that's right. It was Sami going for, I think the pipe got introduced, and then Sami went for the haluva kick. Scarlett grabbed his leg while the ref's messing with her. Kross picks up the lead pipe, blasts Sami right in the belly, in the boiler. In the boiler, as Bob Uecker used to say, and got the win. So yeah, hopefully though the honker of Karrion Kross is okay, and there's no serious damage there. Finally, we get backstage. AJ Styles is talking to Adam Pearce and the doctor that apparently evaluated Dominic, and the doctor is saying, I don't have him cleared yet. There's a couple more forms to sign or something. And they're like, what the fuck? And then AJ gets attacked from behind by Dominic, and Dominic says, I'm cleared and I will see you at SummerSlam. So it is now official, Dominic versus AJ Styles for the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam, and I really hope that next week, last minute, they make this a ladder match. I just would love in 2025 to have an Intercontinental Championship ladder match at SummerSlam. Is that so much to ask, Triple H? Is it really too much to ask? Come on, hook us up. Then it was time for Stephanie Vicaire versus Io Sky. This was a sexy match, Jesus Christ. Of course, we knew we'd get some good stuff out of these two ladies. We got the Devil's Kiss to Io on the apron, and then she rolled her in the ring and hit her with it in the ring too. We had all sorts of interference in this thing. This got all kinds of chaotic here, but it was a kind of a finish that I expected. Maybe not to go as crazy as they got, and as elaborate as they got with the run-ins, but you knew that we were just going to get a bell ringing in this one, and there was going to be no shoulders pinned to the mat. So Secret Hervis, they show up first on the ring apron. Stephanie Vicaire knocks both of them off, and then Chelsea Green, the very lovely Chelsea Green, comes in from behind and nails Stephanie Vicaire, and the referee rings the bell. So I guess this would technically be a victory for Io Sky, right? Anybody looked up the actual results? I feel like it's an Io Sky victory, since it was Stephanie Vicaire was the one that got attacked by Chelsea. That's usually what happens. So anyway, the bell rings, and now we have this big post-match beatdown with the Secret Hervis and Chelsea now fighting against Stephanie and Io. You know, Io and Steph now fighting together to fight all of them off. And then once they run off Chelsea and Alba and Piper, in from behind, Naomi, who wipes out both Stephanie Vicaire and Io Sky. Then we get Rhea Ripley's music playing. She comes out, kicks everyone's ass, and riptides Chelsea Green. So in the end there, Rhea stood in the ring with Io and Stephanie Vicaire. That's a bright fucking future right there. Jesus Christ, those two. And like I said, I would build for Rhea Ripley to win the championship at Crown Jewel in Perth. So I don't think she's going to win at SummerSlam, and she's not going to probably even have a match at Clash in Paris. She might. But I don't think Rhea Ripley will be successful at SummerSlam. I do think she will win, possibly in the main event at Crown Jewel in Australia in October. And then she carries the championship into WrestleMania next year to face the winner of the Rumble or the Chamber, the lovely Miss Stephanie Vicaire. I would book Ripley and Stephanie at WrestleMania this year. Don't wait another year. You waited too long to do the Bianca one. Don't sleep on these two. I think that's the match you got to give us at some point. And I think Ripley winning the title in Australia and carrying it into WrestleMania and dropping it to Stephanie would be the way to go there. Unless, of course, WWE wants Ripley to win another Royal Rumble and then win the title at WrestleMania. But I think giving her the title in Australia would be way more fun. And then at WrestleMania, you can make Stephanie Vicaire into another Rhea Ripley. Now you got two of them. There's no fucking downside there. Did I just turn my mic off? No, we good. You can hear me, right? All right. That leaves us with the main event segment, I should say. Stephanie and Io was the main event match. All right. Just making sure my mic still works. So we knew this, or at least I thought this was where we were going to learn what Roman Reigns is going to do at SummerSlam. Obviously, he's going to be in a match, but now with Seth out and Punk being involved in the Gunther match, we weren't really totally sure what Roman Reigns was going to do. And I figured it had to be one of two things, because there's really nothing else for him to do other than one of these two things. Either a one-on-one match with Braun Breaker or a tag team match with his cousin Jey Uso taking on Breaker and Bronson Reed. And now that Naomi is on Raw, I feel like you got to get Jimmy over there as well. And I'm curious, if Rollins would not have gotten hurt, was it going to be Roman and the Usos versus those three? I think it might have been. I think you get Jimmy over here somehow and do that. But now it's probably, based on how they set everything up here, going to be a tag. So it was Roman's segment, but we had Heyman, Reed, and Breaker out first. And then Paul Heyman says, before he comes out here, I got to get some things off my chest. And then Roman's music immediately plays. You get nothing off your chest tonight, Paul Heyman. And then out comes Roman Reigns. And Heyman basically says, hey, with Seth Rollins out, we've got a leadership void here, and we can fix this very easily. And says, I love you, my tribal chief. And of course, Roman, sees right through that. Roman said that he used to call him a wise man. Now you're just a dumbass. And he reminds Braun Breaker more than once to back the fuck off. Breaker was kind of like barking and getting closer. He's like, back up, son. Back up. Warned him more than once. And Roman then, takes offense to Heyman saying that he was the one that created the bloodline and Roman was the one who ruined it. And, Roman basically said, all that's bullshit. And he warned Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, he's going to do to you exactly what he did to me. Once he gets what he needs out of you, he's going to dump you. And, of course, neither one of them believe it. And Braun Breaker then takes the mic and says that, typical stuff, Roman Reigns is no longer relevant, blah, blah, blah. And after he says his piece, Roman Reigns pulls a Naomi and says, I didn't hear anything you just said. Maybe your mic's broken. You should use mine. Throws the mic to him and then, boom, nails Breaker right with a Superman punch. And then he attacks Bronson Reed. So Roman starts the attack onto Reed, and then Breaker recovers and hits a spear on Roman. Reed and Breaker start putting the boots to Roman Reigns, and very predictable, outcome here. You knew Jey Uso was going to come out and make the save, which he did. He shows up. Roman and Jey double spear Breaker and Reed. They retreat in the aisleway, and it's just a stare down at the end of the show. To close the show, Roman and Jey staring down Reed and Breaker, and that appears to be your SummerSlam match. It's going to be Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker versus Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, and I feel like we won't even have to wait until Monday to find this out. I feel like they're going to announce this beforehand. That's what I said at the beginning of the show. I don't know if they have yet, but I feel like waiting until next week is just silly. Like, that's going to be the match. Roman is going to be at SummerSlam. What else? What's he going to do? Face El Grande Americano? No, it's going to be what they just fucking set up here in the main event. So it would be silly to make us wait because you're not going to be revealing anything next week that the fans don't already understand. You know what I mean? So there's no reason to make some big announcement next week on Raw because that's going to be the most predictable damn thing you've ever done. So just announce it now. And I'm okay with that, I suppose. I was kind of hoping for Roman and Breaker one-on-one, but, perhaps WWE has a different time and place for that match. Maybe doing it here might have been a little bit rushed since Roman just got here back last week, and now you got 2 Raws to finish your build. Maybe that's not enough between Breaker and Roman, and I can understand that. That might be a Mania program, and we have to see, what kind of motivations Roman has towards the championship. And if he wants to get that back or not. So after SummerSlam, Roman might have some completely different ideas. And, of course, we got War Games coming up in a few months as well. So, yeah, it just depends. But that pretty much is your Raw in a nutshell for this evening. Check the chat here. See if you guys have anything super interesting to get into. And then I'm probably going to be bailing out of here for the night. Yeah, Brian, Roman's promo is full circle with Braun Breaker. Recalled the day when he had his feud with Cena. He was a rookie. Now that Reigns is the part-timer, it is a lot like that too. And that's why I think like they want to, if you're going to do Roman and Breaker, you got to do it at the right time, the right time and the right place. That's right. Thank you for that, Rodrigo. It was Andrade and Rey Fenix. So Andrade and Phoenix have the tag title shot this Friday. Oh, yeah, I was thinking it was next week. I guess it's this coming Friday, right? So, and then just a couple days after that on Raw, on the Go Home Raw next week, it'll be the tag title shot for the LWO. I know, Julie. I hate that Cosby being revealed as a horrible human means you can't stand to watch. It's hard to watch the Cosby Show. I'm not sure about A Different World. I don't know. I think it's still okay to watch A Different World. I don't know. But yeah, it sucks because it's just like such an American institution, that show. It's kind of like the same thing with like Benoit and whatnot. Benoit just being the monster that he was, makes you look at all of his matches differently and his career differently and the career of woman differently. Anytime I see Nancy back in her Kevin Sullivan days or in her WCW days or ECW days or wherever she was, the very first thing that comes into your mind is what happened to her, and so it's like the same thing with that, Cosby Show might be on in syndication in a few places, but how can you look at that fucking turd without thinking about the nasty things he did, even though you loved the show growing up, it sucks. It just sucks for everyone involved, and it certainly sucks for the victims of these people. That doesn't mean we can't appreciate the acting chops of a Malcolm Jamal Warner, you know, and the great young man that the character of Theo Huxtable was. It's a shame. I should have mentioned that. Yes, we did talk about KO on the podcast on Saturday because it was just the day after he underwent surgery for his neck. So, yeah, he also, it could be a long road back for Kevin Owens. Hopefully he comes back, but it's going to kind of be up to him, whatever's best for him and his career and his family and himself. We'll support him here. Bischoff or Cornette in a real fight. That would be pretty awful. They're both so old. It would just be, like two old guys fighting over the last piece of cornbread when they're drunk. I don't know what kind of how entertaining that would be. Take Brock off the ban list, says Zane. Maybe one day. I'm still not completely convinced we never see him again. But, Brock, it's always so hard to get a read on him because you don't know much about his personal life. You never see him out doing shit. There's never pictures of him. Whenever there is, you're always blown away by how long his hair is or whatever. But, we've seen a few pictures of him recently in Sable. And then, of course, his daughter, Jesus Christ, this beast that he spawned, throwing shot puts 78 fucking miles in college. She's awesome. So you don't know much about Brock other than, very, very small details. But, Brock, I got a lot of Brock. In my life, I experienced his whole career, including an 8-year gap. So if I never have to experience Brock Lesnar in the ring again, I will be okay. I don't desire it, And plus, I have an assload of memories and matches we can always go back and watch. But it's always, one of those things like the Cosby thing we just talked about. It's hard to not look at Brock now and not associate him with that. It's just impossible, Just impossible. So just don't be a shitty person, and then everything will be okay. I don't understand why that's so impossible for so many people in this world. Just don't be a shitty person. But some folks struggle to achieve that. Anyway, you guys, I'm going to get out of here tonight. I'm going to have some tacos with Elizabeth, kick back and watch some TV or something. Tito is hungry, as you can see. Hey, buddy. Hungry? Yeah. He's hungry too. So we're going to go take care of that. Thank you for another great weekend here. We're here Saturday. We're here Sunday. We're here last night. I already have Sunday's watch-along link already posted for SummerSlam 1995, so you can save that for this weekend. And I will be here for the podcast, of course, on Saturday. Big week going on for me at work. I'm stone cold busy as hell, but I have a feeling you might see me in some other form before we get to Saturday. So thanks again for being here. Do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button on your way out the door since we had a super low audience tonight. I would appreciate that. And I'll be catching you guys here shortly in just a few days. Love y'all. Peace.